Good morning, beautiful beings. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm coming to you this morning from the Little Healing Yurt, where I often do lots of face-to-face sessions on Mount Tambourine. You may have seen that I've developed a new healing technique, and these sessions are called Soul Spine sessions, and they've been really exciting, really fun, and really deep sessions that I've had the pleasure of working with people through. I've always been deeply interested in the nervous system, and I've been watching more than ever now how our nervous systems are such a foundation for what we experience, and how, I guess, in current times our nervous systems have been overactive, hyperstimulated. There's a big link between the nervous system and trauma and the brain, and these are all the things that really grab my interest. So if you're interested in more information about Soul Spine, and if you're in the local area, please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to discuss and describe it further. Otherwise, this video today is actually a part 2 video. This is a follow-on from my Healing Anaemia video, which I did a couple of months ago. And I'm doing this video now because I have some news with my own personal experience with healing anemia. So it's now 3 months since my first blood test that showed up iron deficient anemia. 3 months, just a couple of days ago, I got another blood test and looked over the results with my integrative GP. So 3 months ago, my iron or my ferritin levels were less than 5. A few days ago, with another blood test, my ferritin levels are 100. So that's in a lovely normal range. It's in mid-range of the healthy window, which is exactly where I want it to be. And this confirms to me that the different ways that I was trying to heal myself have all worked. Now, usually when there's a holistic approach, a multifaceted approach to an illness, we congratulate and celebrate that it's worked, but I am now reanalyzing what part of that has been the most beneficial. So my GP explained to me that it's not really about the iron that you're putting in, because the transfusions are always the most effective way to put more iron in, because they go straight into the blood and they don't have to go through the digestion. But it's more about how you hold that iron. So for me, I talked about where I might be exhausting my iron stores psycho-emotionally, and what I can do to heal that part of myself and come back into a more authentic version that shows my body I can hold on to the resources that it really needs. And also it really shows me the exhausting programs that I'm running and how I'm letting them use up my resources in a way that's actually going to be detrimental to my health, right? For me, I think anemia is overlooked a lot of the time. Particularly when we identify as young women that are menstruating, we just assume that low iron might be a part of that, or particularly if you're vegetarian, vegan. And I'm deeply challenging that. I think that the way I felt 3 months ago compared to the way I feel now is really different. I feel very healed in many ways. I feel stronger and warmer and more resilient. I have the capacity to exercise, to be active. I have more enthusiasm that comes from a place of deep knowing rather than excitability. I've noticed that my nervous system has calmed down so that I don't have to drive my motivation so much. And one of the most interesting things that changed for me, I spoke in the last video about my physical capacity changing, which was really exciting. Since that point, I started walking more. I got up to 5K, no problem, 10 kilometers, no problem. And I thought, okay, this is a new level for me. I'm hungry for more. I had this burning energy inside me that I hadn't seen for years, that was really exciting, but almost I didn't know what to do with it, right? So I was like, I want to do something with my body. I want to move. I want to challenge it. I want to do something that, really gets my muscles working and my blood flowing. And that was awesome for me. But one of the biggest things that changed as well was as I felt the iron staying in my body, I had a clearer idea and more energy to see what my body needed in a new way, which made me reflect on before, right? Before, I didn't have the capacity to do the things that I thought I should be doing. But as that changed, I naturally just started doing the things that I knew were right for me. Right? And through that came dietary changes, changes in movement, new places in the brain space that I was exploring, new ideas, more creative expression. And it was really interesting that my body needed this top up and this great change in my programs, in my emotions, in the way that I thought, in order to reach a new place of evolution. And I realized just how much I must have been running on empty and going around in circles without that energy to really change it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was just almost quite a confronting factor. It's like I could just see what I needed to do. I could just see the foods that were right for me. I could just see how it was meant to unfold. I had the energy to cook more and to select fresh foods and to buy different quality of produce. Whereas before, it just wasn't in my energy capacity. And that was really interesting to me. The biggest change that this has brought in me is that I clearly saw where my programs were exhausting me and where my overextension for situations and other people, my over-nurturing, was completely draining my reserves. So this actually illuminated really intense, deep controlling patterns that I couldn't see before. I just could not see them. So when I saw them all for what they were, very confronting, very uncomfortable, but at least I could now work with them. And control really is just a way for us to not look at our fear. It's a way for us to stay powerful. It's a way for us to organize the world around us down to people, places, things, situations. And I'd learned that. And my fear was running all of that. It was quite an elaborate system of control. And I could see it minimally in some situations that I didn't feel were disempowering. They were just the way that I wanted to run either my business or my home environment. But then I saw it deeply hurting some situations in my life and some relationships. And when I release that control, when I surrender all of that and I look at the fear underneath and I allow that fear to be there and I love that fear for being there and I almost give that fear a really big hug and say, it's all right, it's okay that you're there, then everything just melts away. My nervous system completely comes out of fight and flight. The control leaves my body and the iron stays. And so does my capacity for oxygen around the body, my capacity to move, to have resilience, more immunity too. And I've found that a deeply healing process. Now, I use the strategy of eating red meat every day to really push those iron stores up to maximum. And I guess that's probably me having controlling tendencies as well, but I really wanted to see the extent of that. But my ability to hold onto that iron is still a new thing. So I'll continue having blood tests every 3 months and watching those iron stores. But I really feel like I've touched on something important for me personally. And the reason why I'm sharing it is because it's not an uncommon pattern that I see in other people. So one of the things that I'm trying really hard to do is to stay out of other people's business, issues, sadness, suffering. Just stay out of it. It's not my job to go in and rescue. It's not my job to overextend to them. It's not my job to hold space every time something's going wrong in people around me. I do that as a job, and that's fine. That's in that container. And I have boundaries around that work which keep my energy where it needs to be. But in my everyday life, my system of control is I was overextending to people. I was trying to fix, rescue, and change everyone that I could, and that's control. Because I'm controlling my fear that if I don't do that, then I have to look at my own fear that I might not be good enough. Right? So when I overextend, I validate that fear. But those fears, those deep-seated self-worth fears, need to be allowed. First of all, their presence is allowed, and they need love. They don't need control. They don't need a narrative. They don't need my ego. They don't need to be proven right or wrong. They just need to be allowed to be there. And when we allow them to be there, we can love them. I know that self-worth is a product of my society. I know that this is really deep healing work for me to look at. I know that I don't want to be anemic anymore, and this is the work that needs to be done for me, and I wanted to share that with you all. So I hope that resonates for some people, or at least for people that have gone through anemia. Look at responsibility, look at control, and look at how to hold on to the iron that we put in through our diet. It's not ideal for me to eat red meat every day, and that won't be a long-term thing. But I also learned about myself through that process of just how much it takes for me to run these exhausting programs, and what it would take from the earth and from the environment for me to keep running them. And I don't want to have that impact, so the change starts with me. I don't want to facilitate my own controlling tendencies. I don't want to overextend into people's problems. I want to be independent and loving of myself so that I can love everybody else, whether they have problems or they're suffering or not. And just be there for everyone. Be a loving force. Allow the fear to be there so I can love it. So thanks again for tuning in, and thank you for witnessing me in my healing process. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to share my integrative GP. I'm happy to discuss more about anemia or what it means or anything like that. And please reach out if you'd like a soul spine session or even an online coaching session of any kind. And I will see you next week. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.